Hey, welcome to HTV. The transfer window is shut. Liverpool had one of the all-timers of transfer windows. We saw the British transfer record broken twice by the mighty Reds, as well as a whole host of other players come in and go out of the football club. What I want to do, though, is have a deeper look at that. And yes, there are the headlines. Alexander Isak is a Liverpool player. Like, wow, incredible. Florian Wirtz. So many good things done. Obviously, Mark Gahey doesn't get over the line. Let's weigh up the pros and cons of all the business been done, and let's do it in a way that isn't offensive to people who won the Premier League with Liverpool, because Mo Salah, as is often the way in life, is right. Love you, Mo. So yeah, let's go through the ins and outs. Let's do it position by position and start with the goalkeepers. Yes, my specialist subject, goalkeepers. We've seen some big movement. The biggest movement that we've seen in the goalkeeping department in the longest while. Really, a number of people coming in, and actually changes to the backroom staff as well for the Reds. Alisson Becker, of course, remains Liverpool's number one, the man incumbent, the best in the business, best in class still. Quevin Kelleher was moved on. In the region of £18 million to Brentford, we saw Georgi Mamardashvili come in. Now, he was obviously technically bought last summer, but he comes in this summer with one eye on that. Now, it's interesting in this because a year ago, when we knew that the Mamardashvili deal was done, I was having conversations around whether there was a world where actually Alisson could have moved on at the end of the season. And then, although the prevailing logic was that Quevin Kelleher was going to move on, he had 1 year left on his contract at the end of the season. And obviously he's done a number of years on the fringes and as the second choice goalkeeper, and maybe it was time for him to go and spread his wings. There was still a case to be made. Well, hang on, if Alisson's going to go, do you convince Kelleher to stay around and him and Mamardashvili fight it out for the number one shirt? That hasn't materialised. Alisson's staying for at least another season, and so Kelleher's moved on and Mamardashvili's in. On the Kelleher thing, I do think it's interesting. I do absolutely think it was time for him to move on, and it's a pity because I think he's really good. I think he's a really, really, really good goalie. Certainly, and I maybe people can propose alternatives in the comment section underneath. I don't think during the last 3 to 4 years, I don't think there's been a better backup goalkeeper in the Premier League. Please feel free to throw some names and I'll have a discussion with you in the comments, because specialist subject, I'm fascinated to see what people know about goalkeepers. But that's my take on it. I think he's been the best backup goalkeeper. Now, that weirdly sounds like damning with faint praise or some sort of mild insult or whatever. It's really, really not. When you consider the backup goalkeepers that Liverpool have had over the years, I think of Peggy Arfexads and Charles Atangis and Alexander Donis and Brad Joneses, and look, all had their moments. They are good enough to get to Liverpool, but it's whether you're good enough to do more. And a lot of the culture around backup goalkeepers for the longest time was you've got your main guy and just get another guy in. Liverpool have really sort of specialised in the goalkeeping department in the last few years, to the point where FSG have got like a head of global goalkeeping. It's clearly seen as an important thing. There's a goalkeeping squad. They've got coaches and they keep a bunch of the young goalkeepers around. They all kind of work and train together. So there's something more to it. Liverpool have clearly tried something different. Has it worked? Well, Alisson's been top of the pile. I don't think you necessarily stay top of the pile on pure ability alone. Having a support network around has certainly been a thing, and having someone as good as Kelleher to drive will have been a positive for Alisson Becker. And it is an interesting point because, again, sort of early doors last season when Alisson got injured again and Kelleher comes in, I was having the beginning of thoughts of, well, Kelleher's so good, he's reached the senior age, he's probably going to plateau unless we play him. Alisson won't have loads left, and he's got injury problems. Could Kelleher keep his place this time around? Of course, Alisson then comes in, Kelleher makes an error, Alisson comes in, and look, you see as soon as Alisson's playing that there's a difference to all of this. But yeah, in terms of the ins and outs of it, I just haven't seen enough of Mamardashvili to tell you whether this is a net positive or not. And if we're going to rank it, I would probably put it as a sort of, let's call it par. I think you've got, there's potentially a higher ceiling for Mamardashvili, and he's got a good level of actually senior experience under his belt now, playing in La Liga. And of course, he's an international goalie as well, that Kelleher is. But until you see how he handles being a Liverpool goalkeeper on a regular basis, it's really hard to know the fit. Obviously, Keller had to grow into that role, and we were unsure about him in his early days as a younger goalkeeper. But then when he really got his opportunities for long spells in the side, like cool as a cucumber, just the coolest customer between the two, cooler than Alisson, and not in like a nonchalant, get you in trouble kind of way, just naturally very adept at just being in possession of the football, very two-footed. I don't know this about, there's not enough of a sample range yet from the bits we've seen in Mamardashvili in pre-season to know, but I will trust that the fact that Liverpool went to that amount of money, to, you know, the region of 30 million quid a year ago to make sure they got him in, safeguarding himself, because obviously we've seen some big goalkeeper movement this summer. We've seen Ederson moved on, who I would state that is the second best and has been the second best goalie in the league while he's been there, behind Alisson obviously. So safeguarding that for the future feels smart, but yeah, we'll see on that one. I would call this, yeah, overall in terms of the ins and outs, if you're adding it up, it is a net 0 par, which is absolutely fine. Defence, okie dokie. Let's start with the left backs. So it's been an ongoing topic of conversation. Robertson and Tsimikas have been Liverpool's two first choice options. Tsimikas, I thought, had a really good season last year. I think it was his best season as a Liverpool player, which is interesting because obviously we've seen him win as an FA Cup. So, you know, he's definitely had highlights before. I think his dead ball delivery is excellent. I think his crossing's excellent as well. I think he's a technically really good footballer, but he's somewhere in between any particular style of left back. He's not a bomb up and down. He's not a pace merchant. He's not super defensive. He's just a good left back, and he's been a brilliant deputy for the time there. Robertson, at his peak, was the best left back in England. I would put him in the categories of the best left back in world football. Again, in that sort of 2018 to 2022, 23. I can't name a left back who was better than Robertson, maybe, or not significantly better. If you can throw any names, definitely not significantly better. Certainly in the bracket of the best out there. So yeah, but I think we've seen, are we seeing a slight tailing off physically of Robertson? He has been put through the ringer, and it is telling that so many of the lads of Klopp's team who head towards the 30s, it's very rare and exceptional for anyone to really be able to maintain that level. I thought Sadio Mane would go on forever, and he didn't. You know, Liverpool really ran him into the ground. Fabinho was similar. Firmino the same. Is Robertson the next in line for that? Maybe, but in terms of keeping him around, I think there was, Milos Kerkez was always going to come in, but it was a conversation around who you're keeping. With Tsimikas, you've got those technical skills, and he's a bit younger, and he's got a bit more in the tank because he's not played as much football, and he doesn't play as an intensive a brand of football as Robertson does. But Andy Robertson is, you know, it's funny sat here basically around 10 years older than Andy Robertson and call him an old warhorse. Oh, the old warhorse, Andy Robertson, who's a decade younger than me. What am I? Glue. But yeah, what he's bringing is obviously the wealth of experience, the character, the integration into the squad, the standards, just a born leader, a fan favourite as well. And Kostas is too, of course, but above and beyond, there's a real strong case for me that Andy Robertson's probably been my favourite Liverpool player in the last 7-8 years of that team. You know, so yeah, fair. I think it was the right decision to keep Robertson, and then that balance between him and Kerkez. Kerkez is raw. Very raw, concerningly raw in the opening games. Did really well against Arsenal, which I think is really, really encouraging. I think what he lacks in experience and cool head and all that kind of stuff, he makes up for with his physical attributes, and what Robertson lacks with his physical attributes, he makes up for with the head game and all the experience and all that stuff. So actually, as far as a left-back pairing, I think that's absolutely perfect. So I would see that as a net increase, as a net, improvement in the left-back area. The right-back area is much trickier to measure. It's funny because like Trent was so long ago that I'm over it. But it's easy, therefore, to almost forget because, it feels like we've moved on already. In fact, not only have we moved on to Frimpong, we've moved on to Szoboszlai since him as well at right back. Trent Alexander-Arnold, to give him his full name, as much as he clearly wants to be Brown Trent, cool man. Generational talent. The best player that Liverpool have produced from their academy since ... Steven Gerrard? Yeah. Disagree? Who else? Let me know in the comments. And I know we wanted that not to be the case because he's left us and gone to play for a European rival and what have you, but whatever. We've lost his skill set. You can't replace his skill set. So I think what Liverpool have done is very canny. I think Bradley kind of showed the way. It gave you a good example of like almost like a cardboard cutout or a silhouette of what a different style of right back might look like. And we've seen lots of these across the Premier League. And Trent's basically seen them all off in terms of overall ability and class and longevity, with loads left of his career, of course. But obviously, Reece James, I think, and a bit of Kyle Walker, I guess, would be the alternatives. We're all pace and drive. Now, I think Reece James is an all-round better footballer than Kyle Walker, but also having the recovery pace of Kyle Walker is a brilliant thing. In Bradley and Frimpong, we've got that. There were some concerns, I think, with Frimpong about whether he was an actual right-back or not. I haven't played wing-back for Bayer Leverkusen, but I've been really encouraged by the little signs I've seen from him so far. Very, very good indeed. So this is different to the left back situation where I think it's really obviously a net increase because there's a good chance Bradley and Frimpong just don't ever get to the level of footballer that Trent was/is, but they might do it in a completely different way. Right here, right now, to throw a little bit of respect on a lad that I've backed his entire career and dutifully and rightly so, I would suggest it's possibly a net decrease, but actually when you consider not necessarily from last season when it was technically Trent and Bradley in rotation, but if you think of it being Trent and Gomez in rotation for right back, having Bradley and Frimpong, two quite similar stylistically, although I think Frimpong's more of a dribbler and his close control and skill will get him out of different situations to Bradley's. Bradley is much more of a powerhouse, and I think more of a powerhouse defensively, but broad shape of things, I think we've got two systemically similar right backs now, whereas Gomez was one type of right back and Trent was a different kind of right back. So I would say it's probably it's theoretically slightly down, but given that we've put Szoboszlai at right back, because that's the type of right back for the system, it tells me that Slot has got the right backs that he wants. So actually it's a par and possibly even an improvement on the right back area. Let me know on that one. That's a tricky one. Let me know that in the comments. Centre half. This is the obvious place where Liverpool have fallen down. Obviously, Virgil van Dijk is still the best in the business. Konate really looked quite poor at the start of the season, but again, turned it round against Arsenal to put in a really, really good game himself. We've signed Leone, the kid. Cool. And Gomez being fit again is no bad thing at all. I was a little worried that he would start the season completely unavailable, and that makes it worse than it was last season. But this all hinges on Quansah and Mark Gahey for me. When we sold Quansah, that was Liverpool making a problem for themselves that they needed to solve, because you had a young centre-half who was, established as basically third choice in the pecking order. Had so much room for improvement and development as well. Could play left-sided centre-half, could play right-sided centre-half. Break Glass could play at right-back as well. I thought he had a very bright future at the club. £35 million is a good amount of money for him on the back of the under-21s tournament. Leverkusen's a great move for him as well. So if he wasn't that promising, it makes sense Liverpool have done great business, but it feels like Liverpool think he's really good. Now, Paul Gorst did Journo Insight on Redmen. I would highly recommend going to Redmen Plus, by the way, and checking that show out in full. But he revealed that Liverpool have not just agreed a buyback clause with Leverkusen, they've agreed a buyback contract with Quansah already. So if Liverpool activate the buyback, they've already got a set terms agreed for Quansah, which I've never ever heard of before. It's so unusual, but it says to me that they think that he's going to get to that level, and it's almost like a little bit of an advanced state loan almost that they're putting him in with Leverkusen, because they'll know how much it's going to cost to buy him back. They know how much they're going to pay him when they get him back, and you'd imagine like that'll be, I would guess, in the region of £100,000, maybe even slightly more. They'll be bringing him back in at a level. So fascinating one. But if you're just looking at it like he's the one who's gone out and Leone's the one who's come in, then I think Liverpool's centre-back options are worse than they were last season, because Leone could go and be absolutely brilliant, but right now, not enough data to say that's the case. He looks the business. He absolutely does. When you consider that Slot kind of didn't seem like he was having Quansah after he had a tough afternoon or a first half against Liam Delap in the opening game of the season last year, because the physicality and the aggression required. Leone feels like he's got that, but he's also massive, and he looks like he's quite quick across the ground as well. So, yeah, the question is, if Liverpool's four first choice centre halves are Van Dijk, Konate, Gomez, Leone, or Leone, Gomez, and Leone's going to get, does he get minutes in the first half of the season? That will be interesting to see. And the question though is, how many minutes would he have got if Liverpool had got Mark Gahey over the line? And look, I imagine if they got it done in time, like before the final day of the season, Gomez probably would have gone. So it would have been Van Dijk, Konate, Gahey, Leone. So his squad pecking order place wouldn't be miles different, but that is an interesting one. I don't know where Liverpool place him right now. Is he in contention to play regular football for Liverpool? Or when the chips are down in the next couple of weeks, we'll obviously see the Southampton League Cup game. You'd imagine he'd play in that. But if someone got injured, so if Konate got injured and Gomez wasn't available, would Leone come into a first team game for Liverpool, or would it be Endo or Gravenberch? That's the important decision. So for me right now, I think Liverpool's four first choice centre-backs is worse than it was at the end of last season after the end of the transfer window. I think that's where it is. Now, again, Leone can get better, and I'd imagine Gay will come in January and that'll change things round. But right now, let's be fair and objective about it. Quansah, we know what we're getting with Quansah, we don't know what we're getting with Leone. And of course, Joe Gomez had another injury hit year prior to that. So that is what it is. Okay, that's the defence. Let's have a little look at the midfield. Obviously not loads of business done in this department. Elliott goes out on loan, and if you're looking at Elliott out, Florian Wirtz in, then yeah, look, one of them was a British transfer record, German international, wonder kid, superstar, and Harvey Elliott, who I adore. I just think he's brilliant football, and I'm really sad that he's going to move on, because he's obviously got a loan with an obligation to buy at Aston Villa. Is an under-21 star and a Champions League quality player for Liverpool. But, and be clear, this is not a disrespect. I'm not saying anything negative about Harvey Elliott. Florian Wirtz is what he is. He is a level above all, however many levels, however you want to rate it. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that's an upgrade in that position, because if it wasn't, you wouldn't do it, and you'd keep Elliott around. I think I'm fair in saying all that. But yeah, just to make it clear, I think Elliott is tremendous, and I really wish we'd found a way to get more use out of him, to be perfectly honest. So in terms of that, I think that's a net improvement, and that's really it. Obviously, Morton's gone out. Leone will come in a little bit more into the mix, which I think is absolutely fine in that regard. And yeah, that's really the long and short of it from the midfield perspective. Wirtz is the one who I think is a real difference maker. He really tips the overall quality of the squad, because that is a a genuine first 11 player that you added into a really good mix of players. You know, we've maintained Szoboszlai, Jones, McAllister, Gravenberch, who were all excellent last season and have all had the moments already this. To add there to that mix, I think really, really improves Liverpool's midfield mix. Okay, then the forward line. This is tricky because I think Alexander Isak, what? Just the sheer act of bringing him in, the sheer act of how they went about doing it, the fact that you break the British transfer record for him, all says yes. And in the number 9 position, therefore, I think it's absolutely unequivocal that Liverpool have improved their offering. But we need to have a little wider conversation around things, because similar to the Quanta thing, selling Diaz and Darwin at the time was another situation where Liverpool were making life difficult for themselves, and we definitely weakened the offering and the availability and the squad depth in the short term for that. Now we get through 3 wins from 3 in the league without Alexander Isak, so great, and testament to Rio Ngamoa and to Federico Chiesa as well, who came off the bench and obviously got the result. However, and look, I'm not overly arsed, but Liverpool lost the Community Shield because we needed to change our attacking options and we didn't trust Ngamoa or Chiesa to do it. And if we'd kept hold of Darwin or Diaz, I think we'd have had more firepower and we might have been able to get across the line against Crystal Palace that day. That was a gamble. That was the cost of the gamble of selling those lads to try and get Alexander Isak in. Now, it's all worked out fine, so we can breathe on that one. And that is very, very cool. But there are some really interesting question marks around the balance of that forward line now, whereas obviously last season on the left-hand side, it was Gakpo and Diaz. Well, it was Diaz, then Gakpo. When we had to move Diaz into the centre, Gakpo got a much more of a run on the left-hand side. Obviously, Salah remains a fixture on the right, and the centre forward was in rotation. It started with Diogo Jota, of course. You then had Darwin Núñez came in and covered and did a reasonable job, not as good as he'd done in the 2 previous seasons, of course. And then with the Leverkusen game, Diaz as a bit of a false 9 became a bit the solution to Slot's needs in that position for the vast majority of the season that kind of followed, really. What we had there was versatility. We didn't have that true free goal scoring number 9. But, you know, between Jota, Gakpo and Diaz, you had lads who could all do it and they could all do brilliant jobs off the left as well. It feels like in going out and getting Ekitike and Isak, right now, we've bought 2 number 9s. We've got Gakpo still on the left, underscored and understudied by Rio and Ngamoa, and technically Chiesa to understudy the front line and Salah. But Chiesa's been left out of the Champions League squad, which I'm sure he would be livid about, particularly because he was really good against PSV in that final league phase game as well. So he won't be getting those opportunities this time around. But Rio's done brilliantly. He's an absolute talent, and I hope he's just so good. Let's hope he's like Michael Owen good, or Sterling good, or Jamal, whatever, superstar, Fabregas, guys who at 16, 17 are so good that they're just ready to be involved, and he might well be that. But right now, we don't quite know if he is that. Is he going to be robust enough? It takes a physical toll playing, the man's game when you're that sort of build and physique and that age as well. So not having someone like Diaz to fall back on the left-hand side is interesting. I'm sure Chiesa can do it, although we haven't really seen that yet. And, there is a case to be made that Ekitike can probably drift over to the left-hand side. Now, if it's Isak 9 and then it's Ekitike or Gakpo starting left, and then Ekitike is basically a bit like Diaz was last season, so he'll do 9 and he'll do left, then that's very, very interesting. But I do feel it's really hard to gauge this one in terms of the overall net balance on this one. I think I'll have to say it's an improvement because we've bought the best 9 on the market, probably the second best striker in the league behind Erling Haaland. Gakpo is as good as, and obviously his form in the back end of last season, if he can carry that on, then that's great. Rio is a wonder kid ready to contribute, great. And Ekitike's been so good, like really beyond my expectations. So like man for man, it's close. And this goes back to like Salah's comment on Twitter or whatever it was. No disrespect to Darwin or Diaz, and that's what I'm having real difficulty kind of squaring this off, because I think Liverpool have made a mistake letting Luis Diaz go. I really think that he should have been our first choice backup for almost every position. Now I get it, if you're going to have Ekitike and Isak, then, you know, maybe not. But, you know, he could have understudied Salah and still understudied or been first choice on that left-hand side. And I think that would have left us stronger rather than, you know, keeping Chiesa. But I do understand he didn't want to play for Liverpool anymore. He wanted to move on. Cool. And obviously there's a real financial difference between what he's worth and what Chiesa's worth. And Darwin plus Diaz, and then, I don't know, maybe chuck Elliott in. Really, that's what pays for Isak in that regard. So yeah, we've lowered the sort of numbers, I think. It's tough. It's really tough. Yeah, I will say it is a net increase, but not like a super obvious one. And I'm not being drawn into Darwin Núñez slander at all, because yes, last season was a difficult one for him, but he's a Premier League quality number 9, played in the right way. You can get a tune out of him. We just obviously under Slot system didn't have that. And look, ultimately, there is never going to be, and there never could be, any legislating for what happened to Diogo Jota as well. It's a loss, an immeasurable loss, which probably actually just, look, in and of itself, just knocks down the overall quality of Liverpool's squad, because how do you deal with that kind of thing? But yeah, bizarre circumstances, heartbreaking circumstances, and then of course so much wheeling and dealing done around. It will be very interesting to see whether we are net better, but what we are, maybe it will come out in the seasons that follow. I think with Wirtz and with Isak, what you're doing is safeguarding for a post-Mo Salah world there, because you've got 2 superstars who are ready to win football matches for you. So in that regard, yes, looking at the overall business, we need another centre-half. I think that will be rectified in January, probably with Mark Gahey. And then if we got that, I just think it would have been all over basically an impeccable window of transfers. I feel a little uncomfortable with Chiesa, but that will come out in the wash, I think, in the coming months. Hopefully it means he gets some league football. If he's not playing Champions League football, we'll see on that one. Having those superstars like Isak and Wirtz in, and I've been really impressed with Kerkez and Frimpong so far. Yeah, good. What a window. The best window ever. The best window Liverpool have ever had. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that in the comments section underneath. I've done more on this, a little bit more in depth over on the Substack. I've mentioned it before, I'm going to keep mentioning it. It is the hub for what I'm doing on the sort of Mage project. Mage Publishing, Substack, more written content. There is a paid offering which supports the whole thing, but don't feel the need to go above and beyond. If you haven't got it, don't spend it. If you want to support the project, then you can do. But look, honestly, I'll be fine if you don't. But it is there if you want to do it. But there is loads of free stuff to get your teeth into in terms of written stuff as well. And the videos will all be getting posted there, you know, as and when they get released as well. So yes, like, subscribe, share, comment below, and join me on Mage Publishing. I'll put the links somewhere here, and you can click and have a little nosy around. Nice one.